Hello, and welcome to I Am Dad Podcast with your fatherhood authority, Kenneth Braswell. 30 minutes of wisdom, information, resources, and nuggets to help you on your fatherhood journey. Or maybe you're just curious and want to hear some real talk about fatherhood, family, and the minds of men. Well, guess what? We got you too. Sit back, grab your pad and pen, and maybe even bring a little something to sip on. Enjoy 30 straight minutes of fatherhood, family, and fun with the Fatherhood Authority, Kenneth Braswell.
Welcome to I Am Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Kenneth Braswell. Thank you for joining us for another episode as we continue to walk out this year strong, moving into our 5th year, which is crazy. I always tell the story, and I've been saying it for the last few years, that when I started doing this thing, I thought I was going to do it just because I had an itch to do podcasts, because everybody was doing podcasts and saying, yo, you should do a podcast. I thought I would do it for a year and I'd be gone. And here I am at the end of the 4th year, and it just continues to pick up steam. So I'm glad I didn't let it go, because it allows me to put narrative out there in the space that contradicts a lot of the societal narrative that is out there, specifically about men, but more generally to Black men. And so it's just been my pleasure, to be able to meet so many different people that either follow me on social media outlets, or I follow them, or randomly I just happen to come across them. And so the voices have all blessed me. And I'm sure our guest today is going to do the same. He is Dr. Charles R. Rogers, an award-winning behavioral scientist. He's a cancer health equity researcher, a proud husband, and a father. As the founding director of the Men's Health Inequities Research Lab and founder of the Colorectal Cancer Equity Foundation, Dr. Rogers has spent over 20 years working at the intersection of public health, social justice, and community empowerment. His groundbreaking efforts to close racial gaps in colorectal cancer screening and early detection, particularly amongst African American men, are nationally recognized. But beyond the titles and the accolades, Dr. Rogers is a father committed to raising his son in a world where health equity is not a hope, but a reality. How you doing, Doc?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I can't complain at all. So glad to have you on for so many different reasons. You're going to become one of my repeat guests that come on, and we'll talk more about that throughout the show. We start our podcast off very uniquely because I like for people to kind of know this narrative. I'm a storyteller, so I love hearing stories. I love learning about people through their stories. But one of the stories that intrigues me the most out of anyone, and that is their daddy story. And I don't care how you frame your daddy story. Don't ask me how to frame it, because your daddy story is your daddy story. If you was in a barbershop and y'all was talking about daddies, you would have a narrative, and you know what? That's your story. So tell us your daddy story.
Yeah, so I'm originally from rural North Carolina. And when I say rural, I say like chicken houses. Chicken houses rural, no street lights, pitch black rural. And so growing up in rural North Carolina, as it relates to my dad, he was really into music. You fast forward, and like that's my love. Like I dedicated the last line of my PhD dissertation to music because it was always there through my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the drum line at the collegiate level at North Carolina State University. And then, my mom also loved to sing. I wouldn't say I'm good at singing like that, but if it's some beats or something, I got you. And so, but where the shift really happened in terms of how I would have an even bigger impact on Black males is my dad actually committed suicide when I was 4.5. And so that really shifted me to my role to advance quicker than I expected in terms of somewhat automatically becoming a husband to my mom, me being the oldest child at that time. I'm the oldest of 3, 2 siblings, a boy and a girl. We're all 5 years apart. So transition to that, and even also transition somewhat to a dad to my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And so you fast forward, and how God is orchestrated in terms of like me really focusing on the male. Like I truly believe it stems from the experience like I had. Like I didn't have that father figure.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I got older, and I like especially like the high school level, that's when I saw that like dudes had dads, but they weren't around.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I learned that anybody can be a daddy. but it really takes intention to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
And so you fast forward to now, man, and as you've already mentioned, my work with Black men specifically for colon cancer has been in the work for nearly 20 years, and I started focusing on Black men because I learned early on that Black men had the highest chances of getting colorectal cancer and dying from it
Mm-hmm.
compared to everybody, males and females, for over 25 years. And so it wasn't until about 2 years ago that American Indians, Alaska Natives started, top, African Americans. But that's a space that I've been in for so long. And even how that came about is that my aunt, Joanne, was misdiagnosed 4 to 6 times for two major healthcare systems in North Carolina with stage 4 colorectal cancer. So
Wow.
the thing with CRC is, if it's called early stage 0-1, a person has more than a 90% chance of survival. But with my aunt back then, it was stage 4, less than 10% back then.
Mm-hmm.
And so for this being one of the most preventable, beatable, and treatable cancers with screening, it was a non-negotiable for me to see what was contributing to disparity. And so you fast forward to now, and it's sort of like a full circle type thing, because I have a son. He actually turned 3 yesterday, and I've been there for everything. Despite demanding jobs, despite all the different things different roles that I had, whether it be starting a foundation because there was a gap there for what we've already talked about with Black men and colorectal cancer, or have a consulting company. I have a wife that I've been with 10 years, been married 8, and with these roles, just like I do with my work, I take them really, really serious. I like to say that my family is more important than my job.
Wow.
But also, most importantly, as it relates to anybody that I'm connected to, I take pride in treating people as human beings instead of human doers.
Mm. Man, that was you put a lot in there, bro. Put a lot in there. And we're gonna try to
You didn't give me no format,
No,
so
no,
I'll just
no,
let it
you're
go.
good. But in my mind, I'm like, man, I got a whole nother hour to go. I got a whole nother hour I can lace on this based on everything that he talked about, which is why I got to bring you back,
Sounds
because
good.
there's so much stuff to kind of grind down in. But at least today, I'm going to try to hit the high level stuff and then dig back down,
Okay.
possibly, if time permits, as we kind of move forward, because this
Okay.
conversation is not going anywhere. Right. And so we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of people that need to be educated. We got a lot of people that need to be made aware. We got a lot of people that are in the mix of some of the things that you're talking about, which is where I want to go. But before I go into all of that, I want to talk about how I came across this brother. And so I'm up one night doing my, nightly scroll through LinkedIn, I think it was. And this post came across me, and I was actually sitting here trying to find it. I know what the gist of it is, but I actually wanted to read the actual quote itself. But I could tell you what it's about because I'm not finding it. Anyway, so I always have this thing about value, about how people value you. And people, there's this one thing that people do, that always speaks to me about how someone values who you are. And I just found it. But anyway, his post was, if your idea of collaboration starts with "can I pick your brain" but ends with me unpaid, uncredited, and unprotective, was it ever collaboration at all? When you pick my brain without compensation, what you're really saying is my life's work is worth less than your curiosity. Man, I'm gonna tell you, bro, when I read that, my proverbial baby jumped like when I saw it. Because he kicked me off into. I was calling my staff. I said, I'm writing a blog. I need y'all to create some memes. I need y'all to push this over. People was texting me back like, yo, that was so dope. I was like, man, I just came across this brother, and I don't know why I needed to hear that from someone else. But when I heard that, you solidified in my mind with the strongest nail made possible that my thought about that was right on point, because sometimes you can feel guilty about that. Like people will
Hmm.
guilt you into thinking that you're supposed to give away your blessing. What stimulated you right in that?
Man, I'm sure somebody wrote me a message through LinkedIn asking to pick my brain and framed it as, "Oh, it's been so long since we connected. Let's just catch it for some virtual coffee. No ask, never. There's never you just reaching out just checking on somebody, see how they doing, unless you got a relationship where you text them. And even somebody texts you, it could be the same thing too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pretty sure that's what what sparked it, but like, me and my wife, we talked about it a lot because she gets it a whole lot. We founded this consulting company years ago, and she recently transitioned to CEO of the company. And I stepped back into more of a chief advisor role in July 1. And since she got publicly announced that she was CEO, she get them like every day. Pick your brain, and they come across in all these different type of ways, and people trying to sell you stuff, it seems, or something. But let me make sure I stay focused here. Like more often, how I talk about it with people is I know a lot of people that are survivors of cancer, and when I see them, there's two things I tell them. I said, like, yeah, thank God that you're still here, but you now have a lived experience that so many people do not have, and so you now have an expertise that, in my opinion, every time you open your mouth, you should be compensated in some kind of way. And so any cancer survivor advocates that are on my studies as consultants, they're paid well, they're involved from the whole get-go, from the start of the conception of the project to the dissemination. And so they know I don't play with that. And so I'm always telling them, like, yeah, God let you see another day, but that doesn't mean that you are obligated to share your story for free. And then even with that as well, when people see that you will share it, they'll take advantage of it and just drain you dry.
Right.
And so the next thing you know, your cancer's coming back and you can't figure it out. It's like, because you're over here overexerting yourself in relation, and that's resulted in, quote, exposure. But you still got doctor bills that got to be paid. You still got to pay your mortgage or rent, and you don't know how you're going to do that. You got to figure out how you got to rob Peter to pay Paul. And that's not okay. It's not okay. And so I see it way too much. And even what I've noticed in 2025, especially as, like, DEI and health equity is trying to be dismantled, it's even more boldness in terms of how people will ask you. Like, I have literally told people, I got a whole little form I make people complete so I can weed through it to see if they're trying to pick my brain. But I've had people where I've told them, hey, before we meet, just so you know, if it's X, Y, and Z, it's going to fall into consulting or whatever. And they get on the call and they still picking my brain. And I'm like, I just told you that this is not going to work. And then they're like shocked. And it's like, you got to hold that boundary, because otherwise people will, are violated every time. So it's just more so like, when I see things too much and I feel like no one's talking up about it, that I'm always going to say something about it. I'm always going to speak up and say something.
Yeah, but you know what? I think what people don't get is it's exhausting. Right. And they don't think that it's exhausting. When you're asking, and sometimes to pick your brain isn't even about an idea, right? It is about a method. Like, they don't want to know what you were doing. They want to know how and who with you was doing it with, so that they can literally walk your trail. And it's like, you can't walk my path. Like, you can see my journey and identify with my destination. But if I sit here for 2 years explaining my journey, you won't walk it the same. It's not going to happen for you the same. When it first, like, really kind of hit me, two things. One, my boy, I got to introduce you to my brother, David Miller, Dr. David Miller. He just got his doctorate. He's in Baltimore. Him and I have been tied to the hip for a really, really long time. And I remember David telling me, I don't go 30 miles away from my residence without a check. And I was like, I'm like, wait, what? He said, the first thing I look at is how far am I going? And, and so, because if, 30 miles is 30 minutes, right? And so there's time, there's effort, there are things that you could have been doing, all of those kinds of things. And that stuff has a value to it. And so it never really hit me until my wife hit me with, we used to live in upstate New York, in Albany, New York, which is about a 2.5-hour ride from New York City. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, but I went up to Albany to go to school. But a lot of my work was in New York City. And so periodically and often I would be driving from Albany, New York to New York City for a meeting. Bro, somebody would call me up and like, yo, you got time? We're going to be meeting about what? And I would like get in I'll be down tomorrow. Jump in my car, zoom down, come back. And one day my wife asked me the question, like, how much are they paying you to come down there? And I was like, nothing. I had to go down for a meeting. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she walked me through this scenario. She said, how much gas are you using to drive to and from New York? How much are you paying for your food? How much time is it taking you? Because it takes you 2.5 to get down there on an easy day and 2.5 to get back. So you're literally on the road for about 7 hours for a 1 hour meeting.
Mm.
After you've spent your time, after you've burned your gas, after you've eaten your food, after you've done whatever. And where do you think that money is coming from? And that's what hit me. She's like, where do you think that money is coming from? She says, if it's not being replenished, it's coming from your family. Why are we sacrificing for someone else's desire to glean from your expertise and presence when your family is the one sacrificing for that? And that is when it hit me. That was when you're absolutely right, because I never paid it attention. But she's keeping a book. She's looking at the numbers, and she's looking at this every time I disappear and come back. Whoosh, there's $350 down the drain, and she don't even know where it is. And I don't have any explanation for it other than I went to a meeting. But I also think that in this day and age, and I want your opinion about this, that social media also exacerbates this, right? Because now it's not just people in your inner circle. Now it's random people, right? Who say, hey, I've been following you for the last 2 years. I think our interests align. I would love to pick your brain and talk to you about collaboration. Like, do you think that that's the case? Like
I
me,
think,
I called you up. I ain't want nothing from you though, but
yeah. When
I
I saw it,
hesitated.
I said he read it, so we on the same page of what we gonna talk about during this time. So I wasn't offended at all, and I respect the work you do. I had seen you in different spaces with people I know before now, so I know you were good people.
Mhm.
So that's different. But in terms of your question, I agree that social media has allowed us to have more influence. So indeed that more people see us. And
Mhm.
so because now more people see us, you have to be even more relentless and keeping your boundaries in terms of making sure that your value is respected. Because if you think about like say it's some famous people or something, you can't just like hit them up on LinkedIn and connect with them. More than likely, you got to go through some type of system to get to them.
Mhm.
And so we need to operate that same way so we can, as you already mentioned, make sure that our value is respected at all times.
Yeah.
So,
But I'm a win-win-win guy. I'm like, whenever I approach people, I have already formulated in my mind what's the win for me, what's the win for them, and what's the
hmm
win for the people we're trying to serve. I always walk into a conversation already establishing in my mind win-win-win. And when one of those don't exist, I pull back. Even if I thought was having a conversation with you outside of this, and I saw the win for you and I saw the win for me, but I didn't see the win for the people we were trying to serve, it probably wouldn't go anywhere.
hmm let me add another thought that just came to me is that what social media has shown us too is that just because you have a lot of followers doesn't mean you have expertise. And so
Say that
he
one again for
so
the people in the back.
just because you have followers does not mean you have expertise. And what I even like to say is just because you have a lot of followers doesn't mean you have a lot of money coming to your income either.
Mm.
And so as it relates to that, when people can truly see that you know what you know, they will still come to you for info despite how many followers that you have. So that's like this conundrum in terms of like how social media you can have all these followers and they can turn to like brand deals and things like that. But it also is like a double-edged sword almost because just because you have a lot of followers doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about.
Right. And it doesn't
Um,
mean right. Don't mean that you have anything to say, right? For
right,
that.
right,
Because
right,
there's some
right.
people that are great communicators. They can catch on to any subject matter and make
hmm
you feel
hmm
like, they know what they're talking about. But the thing that I can always hear, like even when you just gave us your daddy story and talked about your work, I can hear the passion in your voice. And my mind says to me, don't play with him in that area because that's not just the vocation for him. is probably deeper a mission and a purpose to which
Mm-hmm.
he eat, lives, and sleeps this, right? And so the value for it then increases even more. And I think that when people see you, they don't see what they see through the lens of it being your purpose and or your calling, right? Like this is something that like is deeply connected to me, right? And when time is taken away from me to do those things, I am irritated.
There you go. Upset. It's the word I was like, I am upset. It's like, you just wasted my time. That was like, you know how much I charged for an hour, what I could have made doing that, or what I could have been like I'm in the smoking now. I could have been preparing for these poor man's burnt ends up making tomorrow. Like, you wasting my time.
Right. And you know, and
Mm.
people will make you feel like it's about the money, not about the value. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the money, it's about the value. You have to equal my value. Now that can come in money when you don't have anything else that equals my value.
Mm-hmm.
But if you
Mm-hmm.
have something else that equals my value, then I don't feel so bad about not getting the money. But if
Right.
you ain't got nothing of equal value, right? Like you can see people who come to you and say, you know, I saw you were doing X, would love to do it together. And it's like, all right, well, whose mailing list are we using? Both of ours or mine?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I just wrote this book and I see you got a lot of people. That's not equal value because I wrote
Right.
13 books, right? And so what we talking about?
Right.
And at the same time, and tell me how you negotiate this. At the same time, I'm a man of God and I'm a servant. So my deepest desire is to serve people, right? And so I have to sometimes think about in those occasions, when is it servitude and when is it not? Like,
Mm.
when is it me paying it forward and when is it me not? Do you have to negotiate that in your mind?
Hmm. Okay, that's good. So let me just blurt a lot of different thoughts out.
Mhm.
So first of all, the thing to remember most of the time is that, to me, true service, when it's service, it's inconvenient.
Mm,
So it's like if I'm really trying to serve somebody, it's not gonna fit into my preferable schedule of what I have, and this can apply to several things in life. But in terms of servers, there's different ways I do it strategically. So one could be that, like, say my consulting company is working with a nonprofit, they'll get a ridiculously reduced rate
mhm,
because that's a way of us providing a service to something that's very important that we support, but still not burning ourselves dry in terms of not utilizing our expertise and putting value on what we do. So that could be that's one way that I move in that route. Like you mentioned earlier about thinking about how like something benefits me, benefits the individual and the community we serve. That's also what I'll think about. It's like, okay, if I do this for free for this, how is it going to benefit me? I already know it's going to benefit them. That's why they're reaching out to me,
mhm,
and how this is going to benefit those that this whatever this is going to impact. So
mhm,
that's also like a thermometer that I use to determine where the certain things come from. And then sometimes, man, it's just discernment. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Like,
wow.
say I get with you over time. We just talked about like some health things you got coming up, and God puts on my spirit that I need to cash out you some money.
Mhm,
Like, that's what I'm gonna do. And because my whole thing is like, when God tells me to be obedient about something, I just do it, and I'll worry about the details later.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? But a lot of that stems from my relationship that I have with God to do that. So
yeah.
those are like three or four routes in terms of how I determine when I do service. Of course, there's other things like whether it be serving at your church, or I used to always be into like serving at like unhoused shelters in terms of like feeding people,
Mhm,
type of things like that, or even places where they provide clothing and things like that. Um, I feel like that deals a lot with your heart,
mhm,
and so, with me not coming from much, that fuels that a lot. So like I didn't always have a lot of things, and so I feel like that's like my obligation to give back in some kind of way. And then even when I've had different opportunities, like when I've done capacity building in Africa, and I've seen little kids playing with plastic bottles as toys and they were so excited. I was like, man, I got all these clothes at home. As soon as I get back, I'm donating this stuff.
Right.
I just got stuff because we're just used to having stuff in America,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm always appreciative of those moments that check me to make me realize that I am blessed beyond measure. And like my bad days are someone else's greatest days.
Yeah, my daughter, I took her to Ghana with me when she was 16 years old. My daughter, and she that was the thing that hit her the most when she was there, because she was connecting with other girls that was there who was her age. And she said, "Dad, I'll never take things for granted again." She says, there's so many things that you get when you're over here and you just think that you're supposed to get them. And then when you go somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else and see that it's not automatic for people, that it makes you think different. It changed her. It flipped her 180 when she came back. And she came back. She wanted to go to school for sports medicine, and she came back and she wanted to go into entrepreneurship to be able to help other young girls, and
Wow.
with their, skin and things in that place. But it
Mm-hmm.
really flipped her. Man, don't want to beat this in the ground, but I did want to touch on it because it was it could be a whole podcast topic. I think we gave people, enough. They don't need, much of any more in this conversation. I will say this though, because you have foundations and I have not for profits and for profits. And so, but for the not for profit, which is primarily what people know me through, which is Fathers Incorporated, I always say this to people, and that is, while Fathers Incorporated is charitable, we're not a charity. I have to run this thing like a business,
That's good.
right? I'm
Right.
charitable in our giving, I'm charitable in our desires, I'm charitable in our work, I'm charitable with respect to who I serve. But charity means that I'm just giving it away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. That's another way people will pick your brain because you got this foundation. Be like, oh yeah, can you say you're in New York City? Yeah, can your organization come to California all the way on the West Coast? Think about time, think about travel. Yeah, can y'all come out here and host a whole summit
Right.
and we'll provide the space and you can do everything else? What?
Right.
What? It's just so shocking. It's just like the audacity. It's like that's a different type of privilege for you to even think like that. So
Yeah.
I am tracking. I am tracking. So I got a foundation. You can go on there right now and get a free stool based kit sent to you. I hand deliver it myself through the post office, things like that. But that ain't these $30+ kits. Then maybe $10 for shipping. That money got to come from somewhere.
Yes.
That money got to come from somewhere. Like for me to get it to you for free, that money is coming from somewhere.
Especially when you go back and you look at your donation roll and you're looking for that person's name and it don't ever show up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like people just don't think about that. But I think about it when somebody approaches me, and it's always like,
Right.
so when is the last time you supported my work?
Right. Right.
When is the last time you purchased a book from me? When's the last time you showed up at an event, in person or virtual, that costs you
Mm-hmm.
absolutely nothing, which is why I show up for people. Like, as much as I possibly can, I show up for people. Even if I got
Mm-hmm.
something going on, I want you to see that there's some part of me that understands that if you are who you are to me, I have to invest myself into you,
Right.
in what you're doing, because I feel short if I ever have to ask you for something, knowing that I've never done anything for you. It's one of my drivers in life. I am rarely going to approach you for anything unless I have planted something in you or I just don't know you. But even when I
Mm-hmm.
begin to learn you, like I'm meeting you now, my mind is in already. Once this podcast is over, what's the win-win-win for me and Dr. Rogers? Because I know there's some stuff that him and I can do out there that we can help some people and help ourselves at the same time. My brain is
Right.
already in there because you coming on my podcast was your investment in me,
Right.
right? And so, but that's what keeps my wheel turning. That's what keeps my relationship solid. That's what makes me
Mm-hmm.
know who I can trust, who I can rely on, who I can associate myself, who's going to, what I always tell my staff, you got two major unbreakable rules with Fathers Incorporated. One is protect the business. Second is protect the brand. That's all I need you to do. If you do those two things, we're going to be fine as an organization. We are always going to be on the plus side of everything. If you
Mm-hmm.
understand that while we are charitable, it is still a business. I still got to pay payroll. I still got to pay release. I still got to pay rent. I still got to pay for the cost of goods sold. I still got to go to the post office. I got to pay for the gas. I still got to pick my kid up at 2:30 in the afternoon. I still got to come back and work till 7 to 8 o'clock at night because I had 4 or 5 days carved out because I got to drive an hour in the morning to drop them to school and an hour back to come back, and I got to get settled in those spaces. And then I got Zoom calls and meetings that take me away from the primary thing that I'm trying to accomplish, and I got to plug in time for doing all of that stuff. But if you understand that and protect the business, we're fine. And then protecting the brand is always be representative of who we are, no matter where you
Mm-hmm.
go and where you are, because that's critically important that whenever we walk into the room, that people know you for who we are collectively.
Yes, sir.
So if you affect my brand, I affect your brand. If I affect my brand, I affect you in a way that could possibly cause you not to have a job,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because you
And and
because I mean,
and
let
let
me
it.
say this last thing, because you
Okay. Okay.
working for me ain't charity.
Right.
The win is you're gonna get a check, even if it's your calling. The win is you're gonna get a check, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so let's just be real about the relationship. The relationship is not just giving me because you have a heart for the cause that we're serving. That there has to be a win-win in it for you. And the
Right.
win-win-win is I get a great person to help me progress my calling. Together, we serve our community, but at the end of the day, you pay your bills.
Right. Because they don't care what you're doing. The bill collectors do. Oh yes, Kenneth is doing such great work out here. They don't care. They care how you gonna pay on the 15th, the 7th, whatever day agreement you have set up to get that bill paid. They don't care what you have going on. You can call them and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a little late." They'll be like, "All right, we're gonna add." Some of them will say, "I'm gonna add a few percentage of interest on that because I need this money right now." They do not care what great work you're doing. They expect you to pay them bills.
Absolutely.
So
Man, let's flip out of this, bro. Now, in your other work, man, which I'm so impressed with, you do work
thank you.
particularly with men and more specifically around colon cancer, which is something that we don't often talk about enough, specifically when it comes to men. I'm actually doing some work right now with a really good friend of mine around sickle cell. And so I'm like really learning a lot right now about sickle cell. I knew about it, but not to the extent that I know about it now. And so my struggles with it is how come this thing is not on the radar? How come it's not as high on the radar as it should be? But I have often thought about that when it comes to colon cancer, because throughout the year, we talk a lot about cancer. A lot of people get a lot of money and a lot of donations for cancer, whether it be heart cancer, mostly heart cancer, lung cancer, and some of those other cancers. But when we start talking about colon cancer, that primarily, or for the most part, impacts men, like we don't talk about it enough. And then when it comes to black men, right, it's hardly talked about at all. So charitable money that's going to cancer ain't always for that particular cancer, right?
Right.
And
Right.
then we don't understand enough about it to talk about it in our communities and in our inner circle with respect to how important it is for us. I'm past 50, I'm past 60. I know I just had my colonoscopy a couple of months ago,
Awesome.
right? But I was online, and now because all my boys and all my people are following my journey, I got dudes sending me text messages at the doctors. They sending me pictures. They tell yo my colonoscopy. Thank you, bro, for like talking about that because I'm taking it serious because somebody
Hmm.
in my family passed of it. Blah blah blah. Why is it that this particular cancer? Um, is so important to you? You talked a little bit about it when you first started talking, but I want to hear a little more about like what drives you in this particular space.
Man, so it's a lot of things. So let me piggyback on some of the things you already mentioned, just to show how that drives me. So colorectal cancer is indeed one of the most underfunded cancers. And so like if you think about breast cancer, it's always well funded. If I say, hey, Kenneth, what's the month for breast cancer awareness? You'll say
October.
And I say, hey, Kenneth, what's the color for breast cancer awareness? You'll say.
Pink.
And then October happens to be NFL season, so you'll see sports team wearing pink at different campaigns. But if I come back and I say, hey, Kenneth, what's the awareness month for colorectal cancer? You'll say,
I have no idea right now.
and then I say, what's the color for colorectal cancer? You'll say,
I have no idea right now. I'm gonna say it.
and then I'll say, have you seen any big sports teams or anything promote colorectal cancer?
Nope.
You're gonna say absolutely not. Right. And that's a problem.
Right.
So March is colorectal cancer awareness month.
Right.
Blue, right. March is the colorectal cancer awareness month. The color for colorectal cancer is actually blue.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look at all my work, it's like a double play on in terms of like blue because of guys,
Mm-hmm.
but also blue because it's the color colorectal cancer. And so you'll see blue everywhere as it relates to, my research that I've done in the past. And so with it being underfunded, that means that in order to try to address the disparities that are there, it's going to be even more harder because the money's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one reason. That's one thing that drives what I do. And so one of the biggest things that drives what I do is, like I mentioned earlier, I was personally impacted. And so with me being ridiculously educated, doctorate and previously in the STEM field with training in mathematics and accounting and statistics and all that. And I had heard nothing about colorectal cancer. I only heard about prostate cancer for Black men and breast cancer for Black women. And so when my aunt was misdiagnosed with it, I was like, I'm ridiculously smart, in my opinion. And I never heard about this.
Right.
Like, I was like, this has got to be a problem. And so then I look in the literature and I see how, I did some different, research with a chief surgeon, Arden Moore. She's now at Stanford, but she was in Michigan. She was trying to figure out why Black men would get surgery, but they wouldn't get chemo as it relates to colon cancer. And so I read about how like you had a poor Black man and a poor white man. The poor white man would go and get chemo after surgery to make sure that the doctors got everything and things like that. But the Black man would stay at home and work because he felt it was more important to provide for his family versus missing time off work to get this additional appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I also saw that if you had a Black male who was very well off socioeconomic status, he would go get 4, 5, 6 opinions before he would even go forward with these additional treatments. And so that's when I started to see how things that I saw back home in rural North Carolina are impacting people all the time in regards to social determinants of health. Like if you have a job, if you have a health insurance, the type of things that you can eat every day, racism, not race, all these things impact you tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really informed my work in terms of like being a person in the community that is for the community and not about taking advantage of the community, because there's such a bad name in terms of research as well as medicine in terms of Black folks. And so that's how, I've been, doing work through family unions and Black churches and barbershops and, meeting men where they are. Before the pandemic, you would feed me on Super Bowl Sunday at a bar, talk about men's health right before the game started, because that's when I got your attention. And so I think all those things have been critical in terms of what have driven me to stay focused on this work. But again, another one of the big things that have kept me in this space is when I first started is, a long time ago now, as a Black male, I think I had a 52% higher chance of dying from colon cancer than a white man. 52.
Wow.
And you fast forward now, I have a 40% higher chance of dying and a 25% higher chance of getting it. And I think back then it might have been like 27% higher chance. But another thing that was important to me back then is as Black people, we would be diagnosed with colorectal cancer earlier and a more advanced stage. So colorectal cancer is like you just wake up one day, you have stage 4. It's really slow. So for my aunt to be misdiagnosed with stage 4 by 52, she had it like maybe in her 40s. She had it in her 40s. And with the colorectal cancer screening age back then, recommended to be 50, that was not best for her, And even now, 45 is a new 50. 45 is the recommended screening age, unless you have a family history. It's 10 years before the person in your family was diagnosed. That's when I started to see this issue among young people.
Okay.
And so colorectal cancer among young people younger than 50 has been on the rise about 2 or 3% every year since the mid-90s. You fast forward to now, and it's projected to be the leading cancer killer among people younger than 50 by 2030. It's already the leading cancer killer for men under 50 and number 2 for women behind breast cancer. But until right now, Kenneth. Did you know any of the stuff I just told
A
you?
little bit.
That's
Yeah, I knew. I knew.
okay.
I didn't know
Okay.
the exact numbers, but I knew the severity of what the
Okay.
issue is. So
Yeah,
because in
it's
my space, the thing that is always highlighted is
prosthetic.
heart disease, murder, and suicide. Right. Those are the
Okay.
things.
Okay.
Those are the three things that rise in my space.
Okay.
So the other kind of medical things don't rise because the first thing a particular black man gets diagnosed with in a doctor's appointment is high blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then rarely is that associated with the fact that he's stressed and possibly depressed.
Right.
They say you got high blood pressure just because you're black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's some of it. But the rest of it is the political climate. It's my community environment. It's
Right.
my relationship situation. It's my
Mm-hmm.
kids. It's a whole bunch of different things. When it comes to, because I'm hearing you saying, because I keep saying colon cancer, and I hear you saying choleric
It's
cancer.
the same thing.
It's the same
Same
thing.
thing.
Okay, I wanted to make
Same
sure that
thing.
I was
Colorectal, colon, CRC for short. It's all the same.
so the the interesting thing about it, Dr. Rogers, is men in general, but black men in particular, only connect colon cancer to one image in their mind, and that is the exam and how the exam occurs.
Right.
Why is that a stigma for men when they think about what has to happen at the doctor's office in order to, you know, diagnose or find out whether or not you have anything going on with your colon?
Yeah, they feel like it disrespects violates their masculinity, and so it's like if I get it, and I've studied. I actually have a scale that I've created, right, as it relates to my research, and so for any exams below the waist, men are like, no, I don't want it, I don't want it. Pineapples, no, 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 and and it's like the narrative has to be changed in terms of like why it's necessary.
Right.
It's like would you rather get this screening exam where you're gonna be asleep, you can get some of the best sleep of your life, you're gonna have no idea that it even happened, and you just gotta have somebody to help you drive home from the anesthesia type thing, or would you rather not be alive to celebrate your daughter's birthday?
Right.
Like what's most important in you, you know what I'm saying? And so there has to be different tactics used in terms of framing it. Like some people need the scare tactic, some people need these stats or something to say how bad it is, how like like with my aunt, you catch it early, you have a 90% chance of living, versus you catch it late, you have more than 90% chance of dying.
Right.
Like some people need that versus some people need like other things to encourage them to do so. And so yeah, that masculinity violation is a big thing for guys, sadly. But the thing that the guys don't know is like the colonoscopy is the gold standard, where this scope goes in, and that's why we like to say colorectal cancer is preventable, because a colonoscopy can actually enter your colon or your stomach
Mm-hmm.
and remove a polyp that's potentially cancerous before it turns into cancer. No other screenings can do that, but if that's something you're not privy to because of feel like your masculinity violated, there's other options too. There's these stool-based exams where literally like, and these are things I mentioned earlier that we provide free on, at crcequity.org, is you basically, whenever you poop, hopefully you're pooping often. If not, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
By the way,
Mm-hmm.
could be a potential symptom for colorectal cancer. But there's you're having a poop, you use like a Q-tip to take a sample of your poop, put a solution on it, and it'll tell you if there's any blood in your stool, which could be a symptom that you need to get screened for colorectal cancer even further, like through a colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't even know that, so they just don't do anything.
Right.
And so then it's like you fast forward and they losing all this weight, or their stools inside of an ink pen, or there's blood in their stool, or what else? But these different things happen, and they finally go to the doctor, and then they got like stage 3, and it's like you're like there was things you could have done way before now to make this not be as bad as it is now.
Yeah, I think the colonoscopy is is the lesser thing of what guys are what's a great word, resistant to than it
Mm-hmm.
is the normal kind of check, right? Because the normal check is not the colonoscopy. It is, I need you to bend over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I need you to, it's like, wait, what? Like, what you checking? Like, how do you
Right.
find out anything checking for that? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's in some weird way the joking about it, right? Because we kind of talk about it, but we don't talk about it seriously. We kind of joke about it, and guys get together and it's like, oh, I ain't never gonna let nobody do that to me, blah blah blah, because it's associated with so many things in their mind
Right.
that
Right. Right.
even in joking about it, that thing morphs into a fear, right? Is we
Mm-hmm.
joke
Mm-hmm.
about it because we are fearful about it because we don't know like what this is about. When it comes to um getting it, is it more hereditary, or is it, or can it also be attached to um what you eat, what you're eating, your lifestyle,
Both.
those kinds of things, or
Both.
is it a both?
Yeah.
It's a
It's
both
it's
hand.
it's a both.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a both. So for sure, if you have a family history of it, then your odds are much higher. And so that's why, playing on the words of my colleague, colorectal cancer survivor Candace Henley, she likes to say that family secrets kill generations.
Mm,
And so that's for everything. So that's like if you're my pops and you have high blood pressure, I am more susceptible to having high blood pressure myself. So if you don't tell me, you're just loading this gun. Like I like to say that DNA is the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. And so it's like I'm already holding the gun because of high blood pressure because I got a high substitute because of you. But
mm,
then how I live every day, if I don't know that, I'm just setting myself up to pull the trigger because I'm doing things to increase of me like having a heart attack or a stroke or et cetera. So have family history is critical. It increases your odds, but the things we do every day, which tend to be sadly a lot in the Black community, also increase your risk. So like smoking, alcohol consumption, being obese, not being physically active, diet is high in red meats, diet is high in processed foods. Like when I've done some TV show or radio interviews, I went on there and talked about how, like, yeah, I grew up eating the bologna sandwich where you put the X in the middle to make it cook really well,
right.
or Vienna sausages or treat meat and all these different things. I said, but that's not stuff that you can eat every day because everything that we do is either hurting us or killing us. And
Mm.
by consuming that stuff, we're just increasing our odds of colorectal cancer and other things that can be prevented.
Mhm. You said some of the awareness work that you're doing is in barbershops. We've also done a lot of our work when we had our literacy campaign. We did our literacy campaign here in Metro Atlanta in barbershops. There have been other projects that people try to pull off in barbershops that don't really take off. People, I think, dismiss the fact that barbershops are where men go to disconnect, not connect, right?
Right.
And so you can't put programming on top of the Black Man's Country Club or any man's country club for that reason. There are ways to go in and have conversations so that men don't feel intrusive about that kind of personal private time. Talk to me a little bit about the work that you're doing in barbershops and how men are taking to what you're talking about.
Yeah. So with me, even building on the parts we talked about earlier about picking your brain, my biggest thing with any work that I do is sustainability.
Mm,
And so, I talked to several of my barber partners, and these are guys in Wisconsin, in Minnesota, in Salt Lake City, and Columbus, Ohio. I talked about with them about how, like, they have some project that was, say, funded by the local health department where they had this blood cup machine or something type thing like that. But when the grant was gone, within 2 months, the funder came
right.
back and took that machine right out their thing. Where it's like their clients, usually Black men, were really looking forward to that because they were like showing their progress, or they were even providing incentives. Where like, okay, hey man, you can lose 5 pounds within 2 weeks or whatever. I'm gonna give you $5 off your next haircut or something. And so when I've been doing any projects where I've been planning with them, I've been making sure that the things that we do stay there after the money goes. So for instance, we did these focus group, slash listening sessions, several years ago, and And I made sure that these were held like in the evening. It wasn't on one of their busy days, actually one of their slower days. And I actually compensated them for what they would usually pay for rent or
Mm.
something. Like I did some type of math to say like, okay, this is what you make a month. This is what you make per day. This is actually a day you're closed, but I'm gonna give you extra money on top of that for letting me reserve your space.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're gonna have free food for people that's coming on me, and then we're gonna have incentives for everybody that participates as well. And so making sure that we're helping out the community more than we just take from them has been so and important to me. And then making the space one that's comfortable in terms of like everybody being in the circle. Like, and then when I come as Charles. I don't come as Dr. Rogers, and so I don't come in no suit. I come in like a T-shirt with a graphic on it and some Jordans. You know what I'm saying? And so that when they find out that I'm doctor, they be shocked. And they be just so thankful that like it's so relate to them. And I say, because all my degrees and titles, none of that matters if I can't help you, you know.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to really receive some substantial feedback for the work that I do because I've been able to meet the community where they are as much as possible, make sure that I'm pouring to them more than I'm taking away, and just be real. Like letting people know this it's a problem, and I'm really here to help you. And if there's anything I can do better, like tell me. If there's something I'm not doing right, check me. Like when I did some work one time for prostate cancer in Alabama, I was like almost attacked by this younger dude who was like, "Who are you? What gives you the authority to come in?" I mean, I was like at a American Cancer Society, like Hope Lodge. We had like soul food. It was so good because we were in Alabama, man. We had like soul food. It was in the evening. Everybody got resources. And then I thought, oh shoot, this is where Tuskegee started.
Right.
So
Right.
not trusting anybody. I don't care if I look like
Right.
you. All kinfolk ain't your skinfolk. That's another podcast.
Yeah.
But like when I slowed down, I was like, that's why he's so offended, because they've been taking advantage for way too long.
Yeah, yo.
And so it's like those are things we have to carry with us as we do this work. That like even though we mean well, you're not gonna just walk into a door and get trust just because you showed up.
Yeah,
Like you gotta we really gotta come correct to gain people's trust.
It took me having to do some training in one of these federal grants we have, and we had to do some training on the IRB process. And I never knew that the IRB process was baked in the atrocities of things like the Tuskegee experiment. I had no idea that was the stimulus for creating the IRB. And I was in my mind, to your point earlier, I'm pretty smart, articulate. I've been around the IRB process for years and years and years. Why did I not never know that until I actually took the training about understanding it? So I think there's so many different things that we are just, as a people, just somewhat unaware. In general, as a public, we just unaware, but particularly when it comes to Black people and Black families. I want you to talk a little bit about the foundation before we roll out, but there's so many different things that I know that you can kind of like really, we had a population of people in so many different venues that my mind is like spinning. So at some point I want to catch up with you and kind of talk about some of those spaces, and then how I can support what you're doing too, to also extend your bandwidth in terms of what you're trying to do, because you are moving nationally. We have a national base to our organization and to some of the work that we do with the federal government. And then there's others out there that are doing some incredible work. I think it is time for us to begin to start figuring out how to equitably pool our resources to reach more people. I think that we do too much silo work. Right. And we have not figured out how to consolidate our voices and the work that we're doing in one space to begin to get to the communities that we're trying to serve. Tell me a little bit about the Colorectal Cancer Equity Foundation.
Yeah, so for many years, people been telling me to launch a foundation, and I was like, I ain't got time to do that. I said, foundation sounds like unpaid, and I had that conversation about not making no coin. And so I had funded some of my own work in terms of trying to find these hot spots how I define hot spots is these areas across the country where a lot of men were dying from colorectal cancer younger than age 50. And so I was trying to pitch it to all these funders. They wouldn't fund it. I was like, this is a big problem. I'm gonna fund it myself. And so what we found was like there's these belts of spots. And so there's like the Virginia North Carolina border. There's some parts along like around the Mississippi River and along in terms of like Texas and things like that, and also the Appalachia area. And so so say this finally comes out in like July of 2020. Well, August of 2020, Chadwick Boseman, also known as the Black Panther, passes away. No one knows. He dies of stage 3 colorectal cancer at like 43, and he started getting it, at like 39. And so when it happened, like the media they lost their mind. They're like, what? And that's why I like, and that's what I say, sadly, is that colorectal cancer is a cancer that's only famous when someone famous passes away.
Wow.
Someone famous passes away from it, like the lady from Babs, she got it, and then she died from it. That's when we talked about it again. Somebody from Full House, a white lady, she got it, and then everybody talked about it. But after that week or so, nobody talks about it again.
Right.
And so during that time, like people were tagging me and saying like, we want to donate to this cause. Is there any foundations that exist? And they didn't. And so there was people that was literally ready to give money to the cause, but it didn't exist. So I saw that and I was like, I still want to make sure I'm just available so I can just talk about this on TV to bring awareness. I'll still keep doing what I'm doing with the research, et cetera, because that's how I'm making an impact. I do stuff at the Capitol, blah, blah, blah. And so then there came an opportunity for me to co-write and co-host a PBS Town Hall special for colorectal cancer in the Black community. And like, there's so much money to go behind this stuff that I was even not willing to do it initially because I was like, $100,000. You know what I can do with that for my work? Like, you want this? It's like, oh no, don't worry about it. Blah blah blah. So anyway, I made it a goal that by the time I did this cast, that I would create this foundation. And so in March of 2021, the next year, that's when I launched, CRC Equity on that special, which still available now. And we've grown substantially, quite despite being really small and despite not getting as much funds as some of the larger groups. But that was never my goal of creating. I would never created it so I could try to make more money. I created to try to find more creative and impactful ways to eliminate disparities that have been there for too long for Black men and overlooked groups. And so, since then, we provide these free stool-based kits because colorectal cancer among young people is rising for so much. And so, you can get it as young as 18, and it's all the way up to 75 for free. And I mean, like, people contacted me every week, man, like in their 20s or well before 50, and across the country, like, whether it be Wisconsin or California, and it's because they have symptoms. And so I'd be just thankful that the algorithms are working so that I can even find that that's an opportunity available to get a free exam. But we also have this inflatable colon the size of a tool box. It's like 20 feet tall. It's like it's tall like a tiny house. And so it actually goes on tour across the country to increase awareness about colorectal cancer. But with that, how I had to change the model is making sure people know that it's an entity that's rented, not that like I can come, because it's probably like over $2,000 just to ship it because how big it is. So it's like literally a box truck has to come and get it and ship it to get it to the places we go.
Wow. Goodness, bro. Man, I appreciate you, man. There's a lot. Like I said, you got my head spinning right now. I'm going to figure this thing out. We're doing some work now with Morehouse School of Medicine around some equity stuff with the CDC and families in Fulton County to get them aware about obesity and it was vaccinations, but they took that off the plate. What they call active living now, which is basically physical health, getting people moving and nutrition. And so I'm actually working with them on communication, messaging, and the social media side, and really getting messages out to the community about these three spaces. And then working with a good friend, Jenks Morton, on producing this 8 docuseries, 8 subject docuseries on sickle cell, which their awareness month is September coming up now. And trying to figure out how to move that into the space. And so we should really think about next March, doing something around colon cancer, because again, this is this fatherhood space, this men's space, particularly this Black men's space, and being in Atlanta, being in Black Mecca is kind of where my mind's eye is where we elevate conversations, that then become national in the space, because I can always put my hand on influencers here in Atlanta that have been impacted and lost someone that want to then speak about this conversation. And then we have an awesome relationship with the ad council. And so I'm always trying to drive them into subject matter areas too, always asking, how come you guys haven't done a campaign for this? And how come you haven't done a campaign for that? And what I'm learning is because we need somebody to fund it. And they're speaking the same language we speak, in that while we are charitable, we're not a
We're not a charity.
charity. It costs to get film crews out. We just did
Right.
one in the Appalachian Mountains last week. We literally just did one to talk about men and their particular circumstances in areas of the country that looks that particular way. And
Hmm.
so I just think that collaborative efforts allow folks like you and I to walk into the NBA, the NFL, Coca-Cola, Delta, Apple, Google, and have these collective conversations about funding, awareness, and education campaigns that impact similar families around the country in a way that I don't think, and I've never seen it done before. Right. So
Hmm.
people tend to get funded by big organizations because their fraternity brother happens to be the vice president, or their
Right.
fraternity or their sorority sister happens to be on the board. That's how we tend to get big money from big organizations, but it's never because of idea, it's never because of planning, and it's never because of success of implementation. That's people come to us and say, you know what, I want to donate $1 million to you because I've seen your work already, and we want to see and how can we play a role in scaling what you're doing, and
Hmm.
moving that. And that's kind of the positioning that I want. And I think that that could be done with more people in the place, where we're looking at this thing strategically as opposed to just kind of one-offs. We're working with mental health when someone happens to commit suicide as a
Right.
result of mental health. We want to do colon cancer because someone dies with colon cancer. We want to do, buy back guns when somebody gets murdered. Those charitable things always follow tragedy for me.
Right.
Like you said, is
Right.
is is tragic. You said it's death. In my mind, it is always tragedy. It is always, and that is why they it lasts as long as it takes you to put them in the ground. By the time they're in the ground, moved on to the next thing. And
Hmm.
unfortunately,
Hmm.
something else happens. So let's kind of figure this out, bro. Any final words? What's next for you? That's a good question. What's next for you? What's the big thing that you working on or you want to see happen?
So you're going to be excited. The biggest thing, it is not even public. I guess we make it public now. Is I'm actually heading your way. So my family is moving to Georgia.
What,
Um, right, we're moving to
bro?
Georgia before year end, and because the thing was, is like you look at my career, I done lived everywhere. Man. I lived in Minnesota. I done lived in Utah. It'd be like, what? It's like, please believe me, wherever I done lived, I was making them coins. My brain was being picked, and I was being paid for the picker. But we're at a point now, man, where it's like everything revolves around legacy. And so thinking about with Georgia, it's only like 4 hours from Charlotte where I got family. It's only 6 hours from where I grew up. But the biggest thing is like community. Like when I had my son's first birthday in in Atlanta, we had 50 people attending. 40 of those 50 people were from Georgia.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like on my wedding party, like there were people that were my groomsmen that were from Georgia, and even as it relates to like our faith, a pastor that we follow, he's based in Georgia, and
mhm,
so it's like, hey, why don't we move to a place that's important to our legacy and our family
mhm.
because of the community that we need to thrive in and our faith versus like some job. Like the job is always going to be there, and because of the pandemic, if you don't have at least some hybrid option, you're not going to attract the most top talent.
Right.
And so that's a big thing that we're working on right now. There was this historic flooding in Wisconsin where we are now a few weeks ago. So that's been the biggest thing I've been working on.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if you could even hear that right now. I would have my people downstairs tearing that basement up. They got refitted, but we got to do what we got to do so we can sell this house. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? But that's a big move that's in the works right now. So even to like make that happen, like my wife got this mastermind coming in October, which is huge, and her work really focuses on helping more Black women and women that are high impact, like work less and make more. So we got this whole thing about picking brain and coins again. And where my wife had the shift is she actually was diagnosed with early onset breast cancer with no family history, at like 34 years of age with a healthy diet. And that's what made her chill out in terms of working her brains out for people who were undervaluing her, because of the stress and things that like us as Black people tend to carry a lot. And so, so that move is big. There's things that are tied to it already. But even with this father piece, it's a space I feel I need to potentially lean into more, which is why I started these Fatherhood Friday posts through Substack about a month or so ago, because there's lessons that I've learned through my career, and as a leader, that I didn't really slow down to think about, that I was also learning as a father.
Okay.
And I felt it was very important to start putting that out. And so that's why every Friday I put out these Fatherhood Friday things that are very to the different lessons that I've learned with my work. And so it's like I'm at a point in my career, Kenneth, where building is more important than like just moving, like just doing something to be doing it.
Yeah.
Like that's not where I am anymore. It's like I'm really into like pouring into people and building you to help you get to somewhere you're trying to go. Because I done a whole lot of stuff, but like I don't want to go. I can't take none of stuff with me to the grave. So I want to try my best to pour it into people. Like I've done it to my to my employees and my mentees, across the globe. But I want to do that more intentionally, through the different organizations I connect with, as well as father.
Man, listen, let's go, bro. Let's do this thing, man. I'm excited about that. You coming? Let's stay. Let's because you ain't got to walk the whole same paths I walked. We could walk them in and blow these things. I think they're like-minded people, down here that are thinking the same way you and I are thinking. I just finished, launching this book, 2 Seasons of Care, where I'm actually looking at my more senior years and I'm really thinking more about legacy, right? That's kind of where I am. In addition to thinking about sustainability, I want to make sure that Fathers Incorporated is here, past my end, that Fathers Incorporated doesn't die with me. And so I'm spending a lot of time with that. I'm also taking into consideration, bro, if you are willing, I'm about ready to kind of fill some board seats that I need to fill before the end of the year is out. So I would love to see if you would consider that as well. Could really then work together in helping, doing what you're doing and bring that thing in and support foundation. And or we could really like do, as I'm saying, my mind is in how do we pull things together, right? And
Because that's my biggest thing, and that's what I've learned too, Kenneth, over time, is like, when I come to anybody, I come with a heart of like, how can we make the greatest impact?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not gonna like, there's expertise that you got that I don't got, and I don't want to take the time to try to learn it. I'd rather partner with you, because we can move faster if I just partner with you versus my thing.
Right.
But the thing, sadly, that I've learned is like, when I come to people with that spirit, they won't duplicate it.
Right.
So it's like I come to you with this exciting idea. We move forward, we meet a goal, but I have in the back of my mind, all right, Kim is gonna do the same thing, and so we're gonna still keep getting to the bigger goal because we got the same excitement.
Right.
But it's like, no, a lot of people is like, oh, Charles coming to me, I'm gonna win. Oh, I'm good. I see you. I'll holler at you later. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happens. But like, that's not how I move. Like when I partner with anybody, it's just like how you started this podcast. It's like, I'm coming to help you so we can help other people.
Right.
But I would hope that you will find that you can do the same thing, and we can just keep doing it.
Right.
We just keep doing it. So, but before you know it, we've done so much stuff in a short amount of time because we have truly had a partnership versus a one-sided relationship where one other person or organization was benefiting more than the other.
Yeah, there's a lot in that, and and I'm really excited about what your wife is doing as well. There's a bunch of folks down here, like-minded sisters that are doing their thing, down here. I think, Charles, that when you have been doing things at the level that we've been doing them, that while people can look like us, they can never be us, right? In the public space, we're going to look the same. But there's a reason that Chick-fil-A doesn't give a damn about Roscoe Chicken and Waffles, even though the menus look the same. They're not the same.
Right.
They're not the same. So they can look like They can be McDowell's, but you ain't never
They're
gonna be
not big.
McDonald's.
Will be McDonald's. That's good. That's so good. McDonald's is everywhere. When I say they're everywhere, I have traveled a lot of places, and I'll be shocked. I'll be like, "Y'all ain't got running water, but you got McDonald's."
Right.
My God.
So you ain't gonna be, while they have the 2 all beef patties, special sauce, cheese, lettuce, we have while they
That's
have
so
the 2
good.
golden arches, we have like
Yep.
you look like them all day long, but you ain't them. But
Right.
the confidence that Chick-fil-A has is in knowing that you ain't never going to be me. Now, you might become Wendy's or you
Mm-hmm.
might become Burger King, but those things that become close to like me are far and few in between, and there's enough real estate out here for us to all exist.
Right. Right. We can all eat. We can all eat.
Right? Because if you like me, I get my fries from McDonald's, my burger from Burger King, my shake from Wendy's, and my chicken from Chick-fil-A. So there ain't not very many people on this earth who only go to one of those.
Hmm.
Because you can only eat McDonald's so many times a week.
Right.
Even if you got kids, right? Unless you're a kid, they gonna always
Right.
want to go. Right?
Right.
But even if
Right.
you take them to go get a Happy Meal, he's like, all right, let me go across the street and get me something from over here because I'm not eating McDonald's all day long. So
Right.
that's the mentality that I think that, folks like us can begin to start harnessing and talking to people about, to begin to start emulating our businesses, our purposes, and our callings together, so that we're not threatened by the people that we're around because we believe that someone is going to take our ideas. Because I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
space right now that if I gave you all of my ideas on paper, you still would not be me.
Right.
And one of the biggest reasons, and this is where we're going to close, is because God is never going to orchestrate your path like he's orchestrated mine.
Right.
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 So listen, bro, this is an incredible conversation. I can't wait to get this one done and put it out there. But let's stay in touch. I'm gonna stay in touch. So that we can come back and have some conversations more about, some other pieces, particularly around health barriers and talking about family health, right? Because that's the other thing we don't talk a lot about. We don't talk about family health. And we also don't talk enough about the responsibility of fathers and men in general, but fathers specifically, to be healthy for their families, not so much for themselves, because sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
think about health as a selfish act, but it's a selfish act when you don't pay attention to it, because what you're not taking into consideration is that there are people who love and depend on you. And when you don't take care of yourself and you're not there for them, then it is not about you. It's about how am I going to, like, I have a 16-year-old, and my thing to him, I say this to him not often, but I say it to him periodically because he's AAU. He's got aspirations. He wants to go to the league. And my
Mm-hmm.
thing to him is I don't ever want you to stand at a podium and talk about your father while looking in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
I wish my father was here. I wish my no. When you talk about me, I want you looking dead in my eye. And
Right.
that's my
Right.
responsibility. There's
Right.
absolutely nothing you can do to ensure that when you make that speech that I'm in the front row or behind you like Halliburton and John Moran's dad, running out into the court acting a fool. At least you know I'm there.
Right. Right.
Can't do that if I'm not there. And so we're
Right.
talking to men about the responsibility of their health as it is associated to their children. And then the last thing is I tell our dads, the diapers you change today will one day be your own,
Mm-hmm.
because someone eventually has to love you enough to change your diapers, because it's coming.
Right. Right.
Right. And if you don't do what you need to do to invest your love into others, ain't nobody investing their love into you, including your kids and possibly
Mm-hmm.
your spouse, if you don't treat
Mm-hmm.
her right.
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 So thank you again. Thank you for coming to I Am Dad podcast. And to all of my listeners, you know how I like to leave you. Always be kind to others as you're kind to yourself. Or you might find yourself by yourself. Always shoot high for your goals, because even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. And as my good friend and mentor Art Mitchell used to always say to me, it's nice to be important, Kenny, but you know what? It's much more important to be nice. Until next Sunday, stay safe. God bless and peace out.
Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. You've been listening to I Am Dad podcast. We hope that you have been informed, encouraged you to think, or even inspired your heart for the love of dads. The conversation does not end here. Come back and join us next week. Same time, same place. Or you can continue the dialogue on our I Am Dad Facebook page. We also invite you to listen to past episodes, learn more about us, and keep up with special activities by visiting IamDadPodcast.com. That's IamDadPodcast.com. Until next time, I leave you with this reminder of manhood from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Because of this reminder, I will always understand that I am dad, period.